Good morning. Welcome. I'm Della Enns. I'm the board chair of Marbleseed. Thank you. And we're so happy to have so many of you here with us this morning, celebrating our 35th Marbleseed Moses Conference. 35 years. All right, we're going to start with our land acknowledgement. Marbleseed is an organization committed to regeneration of the geography known as the Upper Midwestern United States through organic farming practices. It owes gratitude and acknowledgement to the indigenous communities who have long stewarded this land that we all now share. This statement is made within the context of a present where tribal communities are continuing to struggle for sovereignty in their ways of hunting, fishing, gathering, and farming. Marbleseed comes to the first citizens of Turtle Island offering respect and a deep appreciation for their knowledge of all plants, animals, trees, soils, and medicine this region supports. We hold curiosity and a desire to learn from tribal partners, to be accountable for our actions, and to be a true partner in healing the land so that all ecosystems, natural communities, and species may thrive. Wisconsin, the primary place of Marbleseed programming and operations, is home to 11 federally recognized tribal nations: Bad River Band of Lake Superior Chippewa, Ho-Chunk Nation, La Cordere Band of Lake Superior Chippewa, Lac Flambeau Band of Lake Superior Chippewa, Menominee Tribe of Wisconsin, Oneida Nation, Forest County Potawatomi, Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior Chippewa, St. Croix Chippewa, Mole Lake, Stockbridge Munsee, and Laveau Desert. Our hope is that members of the Marbleseed community will join us in this journey to learn from, partner with, and pay respect to, and uphold the knowledge of indigenous people of this region. So, we're here celebrating our Farmer of the Year and our change maker, and they'll be introduced to you shortly. I want first to introduce to you the staff and board of Marbleseed, and if you have any questions about anything, you just grab one of us and we will help you in any way that we can. So if the staff of Marbleseed who's in here would just stand up and wave to the crowd. So they have little yellow ribbons on their name tags. Staff in here. And the board of Marbleseed, would you all stand and wave? These people are really dedicated to keeping this organization running, and so thank you guys. All right, and so now I'm going to introduce the executive director of Marbleseed, Lori Stern, and she's done amazing things for us, growing the organization and moving us forward with changing times, and I appreciate that very much. So, my friend Lori.
So yes, good morning, everyone. For some of us, it's nap time because we've been, up for hours, and others we're getting there. Hopefully, we have enough coffee in this building for farmers. That's always important. So yes, I'm Lori Stern, executive director here at Marbleseed. I'm so happy to be back here, be part of the 35th anniversary. So this year for our keynote, we've done a little bit something different. We have one general session. We're going to start out with our keynote presentations this morning and then go into farmer recognition. So what we did this year is we're going to hear from 3 different people, kind of TED Talk style. And the overarching theme of the general session is waste is not waste until we waste it. Connecting with how we potentially could utilize the waste that is byproduct of our food system, at the same time uplifting farmers and giving them income streams is really important. And we have 3 different perspectives to share because we have, Marbleseed has always been a gathering of really diversity in production, diverse farms, and so this is the way we can kind of hear from multiple perspectives, so hopefully a little bit of something for everyone as we start out. So the first speaker this morning is Anna Hammond. She's going to talk a little bit about what she's doing related to waste and veggies and healthy food.
I'm Anna Hammond, the founder of Matriarch Foods. And Matriarch upcycles farm surplus and fresh cut remnants into healthy products for food service, retail, and emergency food operations. Someone's singing. It's very beautiful. I feel really so happy to be here and very honored actually to be in front of a group of people who does the work. Should I just talk real? I'm just going to keep going. I think you can all hear me, right? Yeah. So, Matriarch is founded. Oh, you want me to wait? All right. I'm so glad that that wasn't an invitation for me to have to do like a performative dance of some kind up here. Anyway, Matriarch was founded on 3 principles. 1, to mitigate the dire effect that wasted food has on the environment. 2, to create new markets for small and mid-scale farmers. And 3, to create greater access to healthy food for all people. And really everything we do has to answer those 3 questions. So I think everyone here knows the dire effects that wasted food has on the environment. Wasted food creates methane, and I don't think people connect that to cows enough. It's organic waste creates the same kind of methane. And that's 86 times more potent than carbon dioxide. These slides are not tracking, so I'm just going to talk and you'll get the gist of it. There's huge financial cost to that. Obviously, all the labor, the land, the natural resources that go into growing food are wasted when food goes to landfill. 117 million people in the United States, that's not looking at globally, suffer from diet-related illness, and 34 million people, including children, 9 million children, and then yesterday a report in the New York Times, 1 in 4 children in New York City face food insecurity every day. So wasting food is a moral issue also, health and moral. We've seen huge disruption. No one knows that better than farmers. I don't think I need to dwell on the changes that's having on the environment. And we only have 7 growing seasons to reach the UN goals of cutting food waste in half and 0 hunger as well. So how did I get here? I thought I'd just give you a little bit of the story because people always think like change takes such a long time. But in the last 5 years, we've built this company, and I think we're showing that disruption is possible for all the pillars that I earlier mentioned. I left a long career in the nonprofit world for a number of reasons, but also because I just wanted to explore politics actually as a career. I did not last long there. Talk about moving slowly. But I did work as a speechwriter for the head of the county legislature in the county I used to live in, Rockland County. And some of you may already know that Rockland County, before the Tappan Zee Bridge was built, had over 900 farms. And over the 50 years since that bridge was built, there was only one left by 2007 when I started working on this project for Harriet Cornell. A number of farmers had approached her to see if they could get a piece of legislation passed to turn county land into farms to grow food for the community. So I was one of the people on her team that helped pass that piece of legislation, and just got incredibly interested in the plight of small farmers and also the incredible opportunity that we were able to show in a couple of years after the establishment of the Alliance. 3 farms went into operation and started producing food for the school system, for hunger shelters, for shelters for women escaping abuse. So we launched that program, and I spent then also a year taking a year-long course in biodynamic agriculture, just to really learn as much as I could about growing food and different methods. And then I got a job as the founding executive director for a program on a farm in upstate New York that also had the intention of bringing kids from the city to a farm environment to learn more about growing food. And I saw a real opportunity there to really expand that program into New York City. And so I had the opportunity to meet with the mayor of New York and suggest a healthy eating program that could really influence people's diets and also connect farm life in Columbia County to city life in New York. And everyone said that was impossible. And I tell this story because I don't think anything's impossible, and I think now we're in a really incredible time of change and possibility and people looking at change. So we went from bringing 300 kids a year into that program to building a healthy eating program for youth and families living in public housing to the tune of 25,000 students a year after 6 years. Thank you. In all 5 boroughs of New York. And the premise of that program really was, if you're living on a budget and you don't know how to cook, it's very hard to eat healthy food in a regular way. So part of that program was we started bringing surplus from the farm in upstate New York, which is a certified organic farm called Katchke Farm, into the programs in the city. These are just some kids at the farm program. I'd like to show happiness in this space too, instead of all the dire news we always hear. But there is so much surplus. And also, working with all these farmers, and you know this, farmers need extra income. So the whole donation model of donating to food banks, while it's necessary because of all the challenges we know, I just felt that there was a strong inequity there, and that there was an opportunity to create a business model that might solve all of these issues together. And so I decided to launch Matriarch. And I love this quote, "Hope is a verb with its sleeves rolled up," because I think we have to have a positive attitude toward change, but also change is, as we all know, a lot of work. So I started to visit a lot of manufacturing where vegetables were being manufactured. I saw, not only that I knew about farm waste that we had experienced, but also that there was an opportunity in the manufacturing sector. 19 million tons of usable vegetable remnants and also whole vegetables are sent to landfill every year. We started to participate in a USDA grant in the Portland, Maine food shed that was dedicated to finding new markets for farmers for their surplus. So we worked on that project for about a year, and we had as part of that grant, we were given a space in Fork Food Lab, which is an incubator kitchen in Portland, Maine. And the purpose of that grant really was to see if there was a way to create new markets for farmers in the Portland, Maine food shed, because More than 90% of food is now imported into the state of Maine, even though there's a huge farming community there. So we made a bunch of products. We sold them at the first market there, and that was really the launch of the business. So then we started really figuring out the supply chain, working both with manufacturers and the same small farmers that we were working with in Maine. And, you know, as you all know, there's no just making a product. You have to create food safe compliant supply chains if you're going to manufacture. So we were like looking at how to aggregate. We were looking for co-packers, basically calling people up on the phone in the old-fashioned way and saying, we have this idea, would you help us? Would you be willing to create the food safe compliant supply chain with us so that we can make this usable food into food? But the key piece there was that we had a business proposition. So we weren't asking anyone to do something for free. And we worked with manufacturers and we worked with farmers to set prices that would work. And it was, you know, a small margin above what they would be paying to send that product to landfill, so trucking fees, et cetera. And then we started to collect in really big quantities after we found numerous manufacturers who would work with us, who saw that there was a business model here, and also, you know, understanding the sustainability piece of it. We got ourselves as a certified women-owned business. So we kind of started to check a lot of boxes that would create the conditions for engaging markets in different ways, because it's very hard to disrupt big food unless you have some special thing. So we were like certified women-owned business, sustainability metrics. We helped launch the Upcycled Food Association, which is a certification for upcycled food, proving that what you are using would otherwise go to landfill, so that we could work with large-scale markets. And this was our first run in an actual manufacturing facility. We made our first product, which was an upcycled vegetable broth concentrate, really looking at the things that were available to us: celery remnants, carrot remnants, onion remnants at large scale production. And then we worked with yet a larger scale manufacturer, collecting those remnants, getting the food safe compliant paperwork, and starting to integrate some surplus from local farms in New York State. We brought our first product to market in 2019, and we were invited to a Compass Group event at the Javits Center in New York to present. It was a Stop Food Waste event. And right out of the gate, we had interest in the product from Compass Group, which is the largest food service company in the world. We did not have distribution. They were like, okay, can we get this from Cisco? We were like, we don't even have a phone number to talk to anyone at Cisco. So they helped us get set up with distribution, which, as you probably already know, is one of the key challenges to getting into any new market is distribution. And it's kind of a chicken and the egg situation, where if you don't have distribution, you can't get the product to the people. If they want it, you have to have distribution. So long story short, we had an incredible opportunity to be part of the first minority and women-owned business accelerator that Foodbuy launched, and Foodbuy is the group purchasing organization for Compass Group. We were the smallest company, we were the youngest company. It was still just me and my business partner at that point. But this really allowed us to get set up with Cisco and US Foods. And, you know, 3 years later, it's still not easy, but we are in the system. We are in certain distribution centers, and people can get our products. And we've really had to grind pretty hard to kind of grow that piece of the business. So this is just some of our products on the manufacturing line made from the surplus and remnants. As I said before, the reason this is working is it's a business solution. So we pay farmers, we pay manufacturers for their byproducts. We work to get pricing that works. With farmers in New York State, it's a combination of surplus and regular product. and we're really trying to work toward a whole crop purchasing model, which is ultimately the way that you're going to mitigate waste. You know, for a small company, that's almost impossible to say we can buy your whole crop, but we are working at a small scale, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, on a pilot to kind of design how that could work, aggregating with a couple of other businesses. So this is our model. It really is pretty straightforward. It's just getting things that have already been grown and processed and transported back into the system. We have had great success with this so far. And we now have products in 3 channels. We make large bags of purees for food service. We also have the vegetable concentrate, which is an alternative to, Miners and Knorr's paste, which are also filled with chemicals. We launched 3 tomato sauces in retail last year and got picked up by Whole Foods in the first hour of Expo East, which felt like a weird miracle. But I think that what it speaks to is the public's growing interest in climate-friendly food. Not only is it delicious and U.S. grown, a very important point as well, but it is certified, upcycled, and it is also now certified carbon neutral. We've done full life cycle analyses on all of our products, and those are available to our partners who are starting to track their Scope 3 emissions. Growing trends, just sort of want to mention, it's not, I think if we'd been trying to do this 10 years ago, it would have been a lot harder, but it's a place where the media and science are our friends. There's a growing awareness, there's growing policy, there's growing law around tracking your Scope 3 emissions, and so we're just like hitting this moment of change, which is also making it possible. There are public GHG reduction goals from large-scale food service companies, and the market is growing, and there's data to back that up. So these are some of our customers. I'm not saying this is a bragging slide. I'm just more saying that these customers, some of the biggest buyers in the United States, are starting to purchase products that are grown more regionally, that have sustainability metrics. The diverse supplier I could kind of go into. It's not as great as you would want it to be, but it's still sometimes helpful to our business. And then we also give attributes on all of our products. We tell our buyers how much waste they're diverting from landfill, how much water is being saved, and also the greenhouse gases that are being saved from food not going to landfill. And, it has to be delicious. I know people always say that, it's got to be delicious. It's like, I don't think anyone makes a food product thinking that it's not going to be delicious. But anyway, okay, I only have 2 minutes to go, so I'm going to flip through more quickly. These are some of the products. I'm really proud of this last one we just launched, which is a product that is sourced from New York State small farmers. It's specifically designed for food banks and emergency food. We started selling it through the Nourish New York program, which was written into law after COVID, so the state will pay food banks to purchase products that are 51% grown in the state. And we just got invited to be on the Feeding America marketplace nationally, so that will be fantastic for the farmers we work with because the volumes will be even bigger, and we're working on some new SKUs there. What's next? Pilot program in California, working with small farmers to make a product for the public school system that's upcycled cauliflower product that they can use in various menu items. And what's it all for? You, the planet, my grandmothers who inspired me, my grandkids, even when they don't think it's a good idea, and my dog. Thank you very much.
That's great. I hope some of you will connect with Anna later. She does have a workshop in the program as well to kind of hear more about how we can kind of spread that innovation and connect with what she's doing. I was really heartened to hear, this part of the reason we invited Anna was because of her support of small farms, and that when we think about innovations to scale, we're not talking about get big or get out, and we're talking about feeding people, actually feeding people. So as we go into our next speaker, I've been asked to remind folks to please turn your cell phones to silent. And I will next bring up Ben Hartman, who I know many of you know. So we have kind of a farmer sandwich here this morning. So now we're going to get to hear from a farmer that is actually working on a small farm. We know the challenges of land access. That's one of the things that we are working on at Marbleseed, and recognize that for most people, that is where our food comes from. So we're really excited to hear from Ben and think about waste in a little bit of a different way as we think about how to make farming sustainable for our humanity.
We're going to begin with a bit of a time travel. We're going to go way back to 2006. And we have been farming. We just finished our 16th growing season. And this is the year my wife Rachel and I started our farm. A couple years after graduating college. I grew up on a Mennonite corn and soybean farm and studied English and philosophy in college. And I was a bit of a stutterer too. And I thought I'd better go into farming so I wouldn't have to get up and talk in front of people very much. You can see how well that's working out. My wife grew up in a Mennonite household too. And Mennonites love to can and preserve food. Food sovereignty has been a theme among Mennonites for a long, long time. And we always knew that we wanted to be in food production somehow. However, there are very little opportunities in larger scale corn and soybean farms. And so we decided to try our hand at small scale produce. The problem was we didn't have any money. And we started in this dilapidated Spanish colonial style house that didn't actually have a roof. So you shouldn't build a house without a roof, with a flat roof, I should say, in northern Indiana. It doesn't work. So we had a house but didn't have a roof over our heads. But it's what we could afford at the time. And what we were mostly interested in was this, a clay bottom tennis court that was right next to the house. And that's where our farm name comes from, because we promptly tilled in that tennis court and planted vegetables. And you can see how young and naive we are here. That worked for one growing season. We started with an 8-foot table at our local farmer's market. And we realized we loved it. We wanted to keep doing it. We needed more land. And so we started door knocking. And we rented some backyards, some larger backyards, suburban backyards from our neighbors, and began our farm as an urban multi-plot farm. And this was fun to do. And it worked quite nicely for 3 growing seasons. And then we got tired of something. We got tired of having to put our tools into our bike trailers to bike around to our plots. We got tired of not being able to put up hoop houses, to not being able to put in wells where we needed them, to make all those infrastructure investments that a small farm really needs to make at some point. And we were both working in the schools, and we sat down one afternoon and had a long conversation that if we're going to be farmers, maybe we just need to take the plunge. And so the training wheels came off. And we quit our work, put everything we had into this 5-acre Amish dairy farm. It's about 10 miles outside of town. So I said I grew up on a corn and soybean farm, and the mindset where I grew up is that the way you stay in business, and these are lessons Purdue was coming around teaching us, is that you get bigger every year. You buy more land, you rent more land, you grow more food, you put up more grain bins, you upsize your equipment, bigger tractors. Everything has to grow every year. So that's the mindset we began our business with. We said, okay, we're going to start with 5 acres, but eventually we'll hopefully get to 10, 20, 30 acres, 50 acres, and soon we'll be real farmers. And so we put up a greenhouse every growing season. Our early production system was very labor intensive. and was backbreaking. And if someone would ask us if we're making it, we'd say, sure, we're making it, but we're not sleeping very much. We're working 60-hour weeks. We weren't able to we weren't making the smart investments that we needed to make. We made a lot of mistakes. And one of them was this. We had been putting up a greenhouse every season until the wind decided to subtract one of our tunnels. And it was an Elliott Coleman design movable greenhouse. And the design really worked. It really moved. Not by fault of Elliott's design, but by how we had constructed it. And I tell you what happened is that we were in the house and Rachel heard the thunk. And she said, oh, you better come and look what happened. I decided not to go to the window and look at what happened. I think I sort of knew. I went to the fridge and grabbed some Heineken. And we sat down that afternoon and had another really long conversation. Then maybe it's time to hang up the hose and go back to the city and get back to the schools. And we didn't actually have time to finish that conversation because very soon we saw neighbors coming, our Amish neighbors on their bikes. And the Amish love disasters. And they had that greenhouse removed from the roof that same evening. The next afternoon, our friends came and helped us demolish the rest of the greenhouse. Later that week, we got a letter in the mail from one of our CSA customers who wished to remain anonymous. And she had just a short note, said, I heard what happened to your greenhouse, and I'm worried I'm not going to be able to get your vegetables anymore. Here's a check for a new greenhouse. One of the chefs that we sold tomatoes to sent an email to us around that time and said, if you can raise the funds for a new tunnel, I'll come out and I'll help you put it up. And so, even as we were considering our options, considering quitting, our community was rallying around us and telling us they wanted us to keep going. And so, we decided to start over with a new approach. Another CSA customer of ours owns an aluminum trailer manufacturing company. He'd been using this quirky system called the lean system, this no waste approach in his factory, for a number of years. And he said, it's just the bee's knees, and I wonder if it would work on a farm. Maybe so, maybe not, I don't know. But it could be a way for you to start over with a new mindset. And we were very skeptical at first of applying a factory-based system onto a farm, of course. We were organic, hippie, small-scale farmers. We didn't get into it. We got on farms to get away from that mindset. However, he convinced us by saying this. This could be a way to grow your business without getting bigger, without having to make more investments, just by cutting out the waste. So a basic definition of lean is that's a production system focused on eliminating waste instead of constant expansion to grow your business. Toyota in Japan is one model for this. Although no-waste thinking can be found in many places, many cultures all over the world, and certainly not just in manufacturing. Hospitals, schools, nonprofits, as we've seen, for-profit businesses in New York use that thinking. So here are three principles from that no-waste lean mindset that have worked on our farm. First is to get ruthlessly organized, to get rid of anything non-essential from the workplace. Number two is precisely identify value. Go and talk to your customers and then buy your seeds. Three is cut out the muda, or waste, any activity that's not directly adding value for your customer. So you've talked to the customer, you know what value means, so what activities are you doing that line up with what they've said? In the system, there are 7 types of muda, or waste, that are commonly referred to. Overproduction, as Ann mentioned, is very insidious on farms. But there are several others. One way that an engineer, Tichy Ono at Toyota, put it, and I really like this quote because it sums it all up. He said, all we're doing is looking at the timeline from the moment we receive an order to the moment we receive cash, and we are removing the non-value-adding waste. So it's about putting on a set of eyeglasses and looking for these 7 wastes. It's really not more complicated than this. Here's a couple of examples of 3 examples of how we applied this system. First was getting ourselves organized, which was a big task. We thought we'd collect every shovel and hoe made in the state of Indiana. Every time we'd had a construction project, we had to say, we're Mennonites, we got to save every little scrap of everything. And so we had all the electrical bits and parts and greenhouse bits and parts, just stuffed our chicken house with them. And in the end, we chose just 7 tools to accomplish most of our work. With fewer tools, we can take better care of our tools, and we can invest in better tools, such as this Korean cedar, a Jang cedar. Costs quite a bit more, but with fewer tools, you have the money to put into better tools. Number 2 is we decided to get serious about our customers. Previously, we would crack open the Johnny Seed catalog and just spend all winter oogling over the options and buying the seeds we wanted, looked interested, and then harvesting the crop and trying to find customers. With this system, it's reverse. You talk to your customers first. And so what we did was we drew up a map of Goshen, a small town that we're in. There's 40,000 people in Goshen. And we came up with a list of everyone who's serving food in town. All the restaurants, all the schools, all the cafeterias, the co-op, and it was an extensive list. There were more than 40 places within a mile and a half of our farm that we could possibly sell food to. And we decided to go around and talk to these folks. And what we do now is we take what we call value sheets with us. They're simple sheets that say what do you want, when you want it, and how much. And we collect precise answers to those questions from 6 or 8 clients. And then we take those answers and use them to design our farm. It's been a very powerful strategy for cutting the overproduction waste. The next type of waste we try to get rid of is one of the wastes we really try to focus on is overprocessing. And what we did here was we took hard stock of how much plastic and packaging we were using, and we determined to whittle that amount down to 0 as much as possible, as close as possible. And so, with our CSA deliveries, we devised a no-waste CSA system in which we harvest our food, put them into these Rubbermaid containers, and take them directly to our customer's porch. We ask the customer to put out a cooler on their porch, and we just deposit food into their coolers. So there's not even a container or a box that we have to supply for the food to go into. And there's no plastic around our food. We do ask the customer to put Tupperwares in their coolers for the baby greens that we might have. We really took a hard look at motion waste. Farming is really just moving stuff around from one place to the other. And we were doing a lot of walking, a lot of moving around. I take a lot of inspiration from trees. If you think about a fruit and nut trees can produce thousands of pounds of fruit in a single season without even moving. So I think we have a lot to learn from them. So long story short, what we've devised is a system where we collect our leaves from around us within a mile and a half of our farm, and we turn it into compost. And then we add 4 inches of that compost directly to the soil surface. We don't till it in. We'll simply grow our food directly into that very local compost. Of course, we don't spend money on the compost, so we save thousands of dollars a year on trucked-in inputs. Once every year or 2, we'll do a skim coating on the soil surface to feed the microbes in the soil. So it's a living soil-based system. We put our little farmer hats on ourselves and recognize we have to keep watering and feeding the life inside the soil. Now that's the easy part. The hard part is transitioning with multi-crop produce farming like we do, diversified produce farming. How do you transition from one crop to the next? Well, we came up with a 2-step system here. You simply cover with a tarp, and you really try to tuck in that tarp so oxygen doesn't get in underneath, so you almost ferment the crop. And then that fermented crop melts underneath, and all we have to do is peel back the tarp and plant. It's a very simple 2-step process that takes actually 0 tools, except a rake. And you can see us raking some green beans in this case. And then we'll use, we grow most of our crops with this Japanese paper pot transplanting system. And we can transplant right into the root stubble of the previous crop. The main rule here is to always leave roots in the ground. So our farm is a long way from perfect, and what has worked for us isn't going to apply in every place. However, here's where we're at this point. We work fewer than 35 hours a week, down from more than 60. It's important to say we have two amazing part-time staff people who perform really good work, who keep our hours in check. We shrank from that 5 acres down to a 1/3 acre in production. And we actually moved back into this city, like I said, during this transformation. We focus on fewer crops by using more efficient spacing and crop planning. We use just 7 field tools to perform most of our work. With those deeper relationships we have with our customers, we sell all of our food within 1.5 miles of our farm. And all of our food is grown within 200 steps of our house. We got rid of our big, expensive walk-in cooler. Being close to our customers and knowing when they want their food, we can simply harvest, put our food in a delivery vehicle, and take it straight away to our customers, saving us another enormous cost. The largest cost in many produce farms is the cooler. So this downsizing took several years. This was not an overnight project. However, during this downsizing, every season we got smaller and leaner, we never took a pay cut, which surprised me. Instead, we became more profitable than the previous season because we were more focused. But really, the most important benefits go beyond profits. We now have a more balanced life. We have time to spend with our 2 kids, time to spend in our diversified, beautiful, messy, unlean home garden. We have time to support groups in our community working on food access and insecurity issues. And we have time to really enjoy being in nature with plants. And I'll just quote Mary Oliver here. We have time to hear the wild geese, harsh and exciting, announcing that we have a place in the family of things. So how might these ideas apply to the larger food system? I think it would actually be hard to design a food system more wasteful than what we have. One example, as mentioned, is transportation waste. Most food now travels more than 1,500 miles from field to plate. I remember that number being on 500, so it keeps going up. In my lifetime, I've seen that go up. Greens, which we specialize in, instead of 1.5 miles, they travel more than 2,000 miles from field to fork. Another example is overproduction waste. Gigantic farms routinely overproduce to ensure they can fulfill large contracts, as we just heard. One recent study in California showed that produce grown in California, 1/3 of it is not even picked. Each of the 7 mudas, I could go on, each of the 7 mudas is running rampant in our food system. Each of the 7 wastes. But imagine if we took getting rid of this waste seriously. If each of us did something. A first step, I think, is to right-size farms. By the end of this century, if trends continue, farms will be twice as big as they are now, and there will be half as many farmers. So pause for a minute and just let that soak in. If trends continue, there will be half as many farms, and the farms that remain will be twice as big. We're not on the right path. And my vision is the opposite. It's to put small-scale and organic farmers at the center of our food system rather than push to the margins. This would be better for rural communities. We'd have better food, and there'd be a lot less waste. This is not to dismiss the need for larger-scale farms for some crops and in some contexts. I grew up on a large-scale farm. I'm a big tent person. We need everyone behind this project. And I've not met any farmer on any scale who doesn't want to be part of the solution. However, simply put, it's easier to lean up small-scale farms because you can see waste and get rid of it, and it's very hard to do so in vast and complex systems. I think E.F. Schumacher, the British economist, was correct when he said this. He said, where's the rich society that says, halt, we have enough? And so the challenge, I think, of our generation isn't to grow bigger every year and do more. It's to define our limits. How much is enough land to use for agriculture? How much is enough work on your farm? And then to do better work within inside those limits. So I challenge you this season to join me this season, committing to do less but better. So maybe, just maybe, get rid of 5% of your tools, maybe 10%. My apologies to the tool sales folks here. Pick 1 or 2 projects maybe not to do. Go talk to your most local customers before you buy your seeds. More tightly align what you do with what they want, what they value. Post a list of those 7 wastes somewhere prominent on your farm. Pick 1 or 2 to really focus on and get rid of this season. So George Washington Carver was a pioneer no-waste thinker in the U.S., and he said this: taking care of waste, turning into useful channels should be the slogan of every farmer. He was absolutely correct in his time and in ours. So imagine if everyone in this room did this, did less but better. It seems like such a small thing, but this is the most powerful way that I know of to build a robust farm and to create the truly sustainable food system that we all deserve. Thanks.
So I love Ben's message. I love it also because, again, as I said, with challenges of land access, many of you in this room are trying to make a small farm living, and I love the message that it is possible. I also like the idea that we tried to find channels for the waste that we're generating in our system, even those of us that are trying to, in the face of consolidation, which Ben also spoke to, really uplift small-scale farms. And so on that note, I'm going to bring up our next speaker who is doing exactly that, particularly for those of us that are processing animals and know as small producers, we bear the cost of the other half of what we process. So I'll introduce Jim.
Thank you. I'm really honored to be here with Anna and Ben. Those were fantastic stories, and they really are getting at what we all need to be doing in different ways with waste. So I'm proud to be part of this and also talking about this. So Jim Kleinschmit, other half processing, from waste to worth, valuing the other half. You know, what do we mean by the other half? Lori kind of got to it when we were talking about it. Let's see if this works. There we go. For the other half, we're talking about livestock. We're talking about everything but meat. And usually I have to go into this a little more, but I'm guessing this crowd understands a little better than most. Almost half the animal is not meat. When you bring a cow in, a steer or something in, you're getting the meat back, but there's 40+% of bones, hides, blood, all the other parts. And this is early before lunch, so that's good for some folks. But this is the stuff that gets made. You know, this is something put together by Diane Rogers and Sacred Cow folks who have been doing great work. But you see all the products that we've always used. This is traditional. This is not something new that we use these products, but it is new that we're starting to really waste it. And when I talk about this, we talk about it really from regenerative farming systems. That's the focus we have in this. And when I say regenerative, we mean regeneratively raised. There aren't really regenerative byproducts per se. And for us, we've really seen this issue with small and medium-sized meat processors lately, that they're really disadvantaged in the market, specifically in these byproduct market. And just as a quick primer for folks who aren't in the meat space, usually if you bring a cow in to slaughter, you get your meat back, the processor owns that other stuff, which is good for everyone because you don't have a place to take it home usually and do something with it. You don't really want to haul a hide and other things home. So they would sell it into markets, and there was an ag business, rendering, hide companies and such, that were set up all over the country, right? But as agriculture is consolidated deeply in the animal livestock industry, so obviously have the other parts of it. And that's really come to bear in recent years with the rendering and the byproduct sector, where there's been buyouts, there's been consolidation, there's been shutting down of these plants all over the country, which were usually mom and pop type operations, because they're just not economical enough. So we go from having stuff that was of value that helped pay that cost of processing that animal and made money for the processor, made it cheaper for you to bring your animal in, to where now it's becoming a disposal cost, right? They're no longer even getting anything for it in some cases. Sometimes people won't even pick it up. So now you're left as a processor holding the bag, and you literally have to figure out how to get rid of it. We know folks who are paying $50 or more per hide to get them to a landfill instead of going into the leather market or collagen market or other places. And obviously that has impacts. It creates these higher levels of waste and negative impacts on the environment. Back to the methane question. Like if it's going into a landfill, it's emitting methane too in that regard. So we've gone from something that was used, something durable in often cases, to now something that is now a waste, a cost that gets shared back with the farmers, ranchers, and meat companies, right? If you bring an animal in, you're increasingly seeing a waste disposal fee tied to your processing. So you're paying all the processing cost and you're paying a disposal fee. It really makes it hard to be competitive in the space, and it helps explain why we have to charge so much for our steaks. So why did I get into this, right? What do we do? Well, my family comes from Nebraska. We have a family farm there. My parents were early leaders in sustainable ag work. We were dairy farmers who ate government cheese, so they figured out pretty quickly that if we have to get food stamps and get our own milk back practically as food, it's not a sustainable farming operation. And they moved quickly to figure out how to do both value add and how to work with other farmies around collective bargaining and such. And so we moved to organic in '93, but we've been grass-fed farmers longer than that. So my dad figured out that, it's a lot easier to let the cow do the work than for you to go do the work. And we made more money, our lifestyle got better, everything in that regard was better. There's 5 of us kids. That's an old picture from the 80s. And my brother and I decided this byproduct space was really an area that we could help with. We were hauling our meat I'm in Minnesota, he's in Chicago area. We all married urban women. And so that's where we live. But we would haul it, we'd be selling it, and we figured out what the cost was. We were starting to figure out the processing costs and how this part played in. So we decided we could do something about it. I had worked at a nonprofit as well, number of years, the Institute for Agriculture and Trade Policy, the company that founded Peace Coffee with Rahi. And I learned there about some of these market opportunities. I started meeting the folks in the grass-fed beef industry across the country, the processors leading the work, and we started hearing from them how bad a problem this was. So we created a business, and other half processing. We're based in Minnesota. It's a specific benefit company, and that's our mission. That's really the focus of the company. So it's not just about reducing waste, although that's a key piece. It's also about improving profitability and respecting the animals and the people who raise them. So how did we get started? We knew that this had to happen. We started looking at what was the biggest cost, and what we found was hides were the biggest cost and trouble for most people. As much as you have other things you throw away, and the organs and other things you could sell maybe for lower prices, the hides were increasingly becoming the huge issue out there. So we started locally. We knew the folks, Thousand Hills Cattle Company, one of the leading grass-fed and regenerative meat companies out there. We started talking to them. They're like, yeah, this is costing us a lot of money. We're lucky to know Lawrence Meats in Cannon Falls, the glass abattoir for folks who've read Omnivore's Dilemma. Mike and Rob are amazing. They've been leading this. They took over from their parents. That's where Thousand Hills does a lot of their slaughter. So we sat down and we're talking with them. And like, somebody has to figure this leather thing out, this hide thing. And we sort of got the short straw, I guess, and pretty soon I'm hauling hides in the back of my pickup to Milwaukee, to a tannery. And you wouldn't have wanted to park next to us, but we worked it out. We started doing it on a very small scale. How do we get these things collected, kept separate, and get money back to both the processor and the farmer-rancher group, the meat company, the aggregators, and feeding it back into the producer groups. And we're lucky that as we were doing this, we found a partner out there. This is the prep tannery we took it up to. ISA Tantech is a leather company that works for Timberland. And Timberland had just decided we are interested in regenerative farming. We want to support farmers and ranchers doing the right thing by the land, by the planet, by the animals. And so they got excited about this, and we got to meet them really at an important time. Zach Angelini was their sustainability director. He started leading this work, and we got to make boots with them. These are the boots with Thousand Hills leather out of Minnesota and from their other producers. So that was really exciting. We thought, this is great. And then we started hearing from others. So let's go bigger. We started finding the other meat companies, aggregators who are doing the right thing regeneratively, 100% grass-fed, grazing in a regenerative, adaptive, managed way, looking at animal welfare concerns, all of that. Where are they processing? Same kind of plants like Lawrence. We have them around the country, mostly custom slaughter plants, where you come in and you bring your animals in. They were all being disadvantaged by this hide market, by the byproduct market. So we started setting up collection all over the country. And we went away from the pickup, started getting trucks helping us, started hauling. We got to over 35,000 hides in 2022. We started it in 2019, so we kind of the same timeline as Anna and Matriarch. It was really exciting. We started to get to this level, and the key for us again was we had to get more brand partners. And luckily, Timberland introduced us to folks, other people came, started hearing about it, so pretty soon we had companies like Coach, Ralph Lauren among the big ones, but we also had some amazing small companies. One's Range Revolution, Kate Havstead out in the Northwest. She's a rancher herself, and she's making leather products directly. One Atelier, an amazing like luxury good company in New York, where everything is made in New York City with good labor practices, all made, and this is all US-based hides, right? All from US producers coming through US slaughter plants. And then we started being able to do more with it. What we did find was that to scale it, we couldn't just say anymore that, Thousand Hills is doing a great thing. We knew they were. So is Richard's Grass Fed, and so is Eel River, and so is White Oak Pastures, and all of these amazing places. But they all had kind of different inspections and certifications and labels. And coming from a farm where we had a lot of inspections and labels and that stuff, we had a little bit of weariness with that. We realized the last thing we needed to do was introduce a new one that everyone had to follow. Instead, we said, if there's boots on the ground already coming in to ask you questions and to fill out a form, we don't need to ask the same questions and put them in a different order and charge you money. Instead, what we could do is, what is your value proposition? Which of these standards and systems do you care for? And said, if that inspection, a third-party inspection, validates what we care about, and these are the things we care about, we all pretty much agree what regenerative indicators for grazing systems are. And again, this comes from indigenous knowledge. This isn't something we created. This is something we've been able to follow and learn from, and we've picked up, right? All of us have. But in this case, it's really soil health. It's grass management. It's carbon sequestration. It's animal health and welfare. But it's also biodiversity, environmental enhancement, and protection. And those of you who are inspected by the different systems and have labels like these know that actually, most of them are asking most of those questions. You're getting that. Whether you're talking about American Grass-Fed Association, the Audubon Conservation Ranching Initiative, or USDA Organic Certification, if you're doing grazing systems, you're laying out what you're doing. So we said, great. Again,